Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. JC here with another video on Action Taimanin. Today we're gonna talk a little bit more about Total War and all the things that you should be trying to do when doing your builds. But before we start, don't forget to leave a like, share, and subscribe if you enjoy the content. So, Total War, Total War. It is a total mess, honestly. It is very, very taxing on players. It incentivizes players to have the uh, most recent limited supporters and adjust strategies accordingly. And it is extremely difficult. I was checking as a Magatama's builds, and I have seen some patterns that are going to be extremely useful for players in general. Not about their specific build that they're using, but rather the mindset that you should be taking when preparing any kind of build. So, let's talk about that. Number one, you want a Momochi weapon user in your team. Uh, well, I don't have it here. I guess that I have it over here. That's why. You want at least one Momochi weapon user on your team. Because this buff is going to give you so much damage. It goes up to 5 stacks and it gives 8% per stack, 8% damage increase. So that's a 40% damage increase when the enemy has 5 stacks. Preferably, you use this on characters that are fast enough or have enough multi hits. Do not use this on someone like Murasaki. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. She is too slow to take advantage of this. While you could use two characters with Momochi weapons to give consistency to the strategy, it is not advised to do so. Instead, choose someone who actually has enough multi hits and focus on the other two characters giving enough damage. At the same time, you're going to be prioritizing certain supporters. Preferably supporters that enhance in some way the damage of the whole party. And what are those? Which are those? Well, of course, we have Mirabelle, which is uh, a really, really good supporter that everyone is using right now on most of their teams. She's going to have a critical rate increases critical rate by 6% for 5 seconds every 3 combos, and stack up to 5 times. So basically, she guarantees crit. Basically, if you have the 5 copies, it is amazing. It's a 30% critical rate increase. Then has a 20% chance on critical hit to increase the target's damage taken by 24% for 5 seconds. So a small, but not too small, Momochi weapon like effect. So really, really useful. Then reduces the damage taken from protect type allies. Okay, it's a whatever effect. Not always you're gonna use this, but the active, God, the active is useful. 40% damage increase for the whole party, and it lasts for 20 seconds. It is extremely good. Extremely good. The duration is just amazing. And that's why people are using Haru. Where are you, Haru? Here. Haru is going to give you 20% cooldown reduction. There's people who are using other supporters to increase the to extend or increase the cooldown, like Mitsuki, for example, or maybe or Ishii, or maybe Aoi. Depends on what you want. But honestly, I don't think it is such a good idea. Well, you're gonna use this 2 times, 3 times. Like, do the math, check the time. You have 2 minutes to eliminate the enemy, or well, to deal as much damage as possible. So, do the math, check the activations, and decide whether or not the cooldown increase is actually valuable or not. The second cooldown reduction, I mean. Now, yeah, because you are gonna use Mirabelle combo with Haru, but a third one, I don't know. Another supporter that is gonna be extremely useful is gonna be Worshipper Lapis. Worshipper Lapis also has a Momochi weapon like effect, because when you use a skill, it says increases damage taken by enemies when attacking the enemy with a skill by 16% for 3 seconds. extremely useful and you're gonna use it a lot. If you're using a human team, you're gonna be using Phantom, Mizuki, Shiranui, because you put this on the main of one of your characters that go on a blue build, and it's going to increase the damage of the whole party. Amazing. If it's a human party. So keep that in mind. Who else? Asusa again for human teams. She increases the speed of the character who has the supporter equipped, but the important part is that she increases penetration for the whole party. Amazing, really useful, really good. Disadvantage: this specific content, Total War, doesn't have as much damage reduction as um, VR. So while you can use this, you can also use something different if you want. There's also Anaros. Anaros is going to be extremely important. It can be filler for one of your supporters slash DPS characters, the ones that have Mirabelle, Haru, Shiranui, and Asusa, because this is going to increase your critical damage, and it also enhances your critical rate. In case you don't crit, you get extra critical rate, so it's pretty useful. Oof. So yeah, there's options, guys. There's options. Let's see. The founding tree is gonna be another notable supporter. You can use this on any color, and it's pretty good because of the extra passive that gives extra critical rate, extra critical damage, 16%, and it stacks up to 3 times. So that's gonna be what, 32, 48% damage increase on top of this. So yeah, that's pretty aggressive and pretty good. So be sure to use it. Then we have, let's go with red. Let's go with red because there's things to mention about the red supporters option that we have right now. So Sword Dancer Asusa is raising in usage because she gives a debuff onto the enemy that increases your chances of critting. And that means that it gives you consistency, and most of your hits are going to crit. It is pretty useful. It also gives penetration to the character who has this equipped, but the consistency for the whole team is extremely appreciated. Most people are not using this on the main though, even though it has a really good extra passive. They are not using it because they prefer another supporter that gives party-wide buffs, like Spinel. Spinel is going to give extra damage to demon type allies, and it has an extremely aggressive active that basically stops time and locks the enemy in place for a couple seconds, 5 seconds. So it is extremely useful. If you're using a mixed team with demons and machines, there's also the ability to use Evil Flower Asuka. Why Asuka? Because she increases critical rate of range attacks, reduces damage taken, but most importantly has an extra passive on the main that increases damage of machine type allies by 16%. Really, really good. I mean, it is amazing. So, we also have Dancer Shizuru. Dancer Shizuru is going to be a really good option for characters who buff the party because it increases the time of the buff duration. Really, really useful. While in this moment this is not a really meta supporter, it has the chance to become meta relevant in the future, and that's gonna be Melt. Melt is amazing because she's basically red Kana, which I forget to mention. Kana, I mean, there's always the damage increase supporters like the big three, these, and these three. There's also the generic options like Kirara and such, but I'm focusing on something more meta relevant that because we want party-wide effect, not selfish effect. Sometimes for a really aggressive attacker, we do want the selfish effects, so keep in mind those selfish effects that we're always gonna use it, and I show you like Arbella and Felicia, or maybe White, but White Kana, just like Mailed, is going to give damage increase based on the number of buffs, and that can escalate pretty quickly. So yeah, Melt has the potential. It is not in usage right now, but it is a thing nonetheless. Now, talking about damage increase, we have the classic Yukina, we have Asuka, Waither Asuka for a couple characters that you can use that are machine. We have the Susune, which is amazing. We have the Baretta, which is extremely easy to use now, thanks to Dancer Asusa. So keep an eye on that. There's also Arika, the F2P option, but let's go back to the meta relevant things. Because there is one more red that I want to check. And yeah, of course, Kirara. I almost forgot about her. So, yeah, Threshold Astaroth. That's the one that I wanted to check. So, Threshold Astaroth. It is particularly useful thanks to the ability to combine both machines and demons. If you're using a character that doesn't that you need to guarantee their crits on a demon team, this is gonna be amazing. If you use a demon supporter on a machine team with 2 machine DPS, you can use this, and it's going to increase the damage of that demon. It's amazing. It's amazing. You can use it with, for example, a red lapis. Yeah, red lapis next to another team, and it's gonna be pretty oppressive. She's gonna become a DPS rather than a supporter. So, yeah, be sure to use this. As for green, we have something very particular. I mean, there's options for sure, but other than the generic damage increase options that there's plenty of course, we have a highlight in Corporate Warrior Ingrid because she basically gives a Phantasma passive like effect, which is going to give you an aura, and when you're next to the enemy, they get a damage increase. They receive damage increase by 20%. So that's extremely useful. Then we also have the critical beast that is Akane and Suruga, which enhances your critical rate. And we also have Hisui. You may say, what? Why Hisui? She's a defensive option. Well. There is something to take into consideration, and it's the fact that she removes all combos to increase damage dealt and critical damage by 2% for 10 seconds. That can become extremely good, and I mean disgusting. And consider that 3 characters are making combos, not one. You're taking the combos of the whole thing. So maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm not, but let me know in the comments. I haven't tested this, but I have checked a couple videos and people are starting to use this, and it is interesting to say the least. So it is an option. It is an option because there have been other strategies, especially with Emily, that use this, and it's devastating. If with right timing, this can be just amazing. So yeah, there's plenty of options for supporters in green for damage increase, both critical and neutral. But those are kind of the most important things that you have to take into consideration about supporters. Now, let's talk about weapons. For weapons, and we already mentioned, of course, the Momochi weapon, which is an important highlight, but it is not the only highlight. So, super important is going to be the butterfly weapons. They are excellent. I know that people think that they are not amazing, and the characters that can only be the characters that can equip these weapons are not the most busted. But the truth is that the speed increase effect is disgusting. It increases your DPS because you attack faster. And you break the super armor with all your huge damage on this mode. So the enemy is going to be locked in place. So basically you're not going to take hits. So you're going to raise your stacks of this weapon tremendously. And you're going to get a huge damage increase. So we have that one. Yeah, this is another highlight that should be mentioned. Bouquet Sword is an excellent supportive weapon when you're using arrows. If you have this, it's going to be amazing. Because it's kind of like Succubus Whisper from Phantasma, but with 50% critical rate increase and 20% damage increase. It is good. It is good. Using darkness. Using darkness with arrows. Pretty useful weapon. Then let's see. Who else? Again, a butterfly weapon. I just mentioned they are busted and really useful. Oh well, I guess this is a little bit more difficult to get nowadays, but Shosen, it is Soshu, that's the name. Soshu is really, really good. You don't use a main pure color skill with this one. Instead, you substitute any of those for Wind Slicer, and that becomes your uh, main damaging skill, and it is amazing. You should use this weapon if you have it. But you could also use the butterfly weapon. That's another option. Let's see. I just think that this is amazing for VR, but unfortunately I don't have it, so I cannot test it. Upon doing upon dodging, increases allies' critical damage by 20%, 44% when maxed out. It is amazing. For 7 seconds, activates every 10 seconds. You don't need to dodge. I mean, it is basically another buff. And if you're using, again, Can or Melt, this is gonna be amazing for your main DPS. Amazing. Yeah. Hawiya is also an excellent weapon because it increases critical damage. Each critical hit increases critical damage by 12% right now. It could be more. I don't know like how much. I don't have Demonite, but yeah, it increases damage by a lot. Also, there's the F2P options of the Christmas weapons, which are really useful. So keep an eye on those. Most renewal weapons could be useful. For example, Double Dragon Kajiri is an excellent option for Zoom. In the case of Shernoi is a little bit unfortunate. Like, I think the Momochi weapon is kind of the best option, but she could also use Phantom Harpoon if you want it. If you want to deal DPS with blue, because it does deal a good amount of damage. Um, Gloom of the Worshipper, I don't think it's the best choice. While it is a strong choice, nonetheless, it is not the best because it doesn't give party-wide effects, and you prefer party-wide effects or devastating damage. Now, for Emily, you can go with anything, basically. You can go with Slash of Blessing, you can go with Heavenly Chariot, you can go with the Momochi weapon, you can go with Hermetic Magistus. It's up to you guys, like, there's plenty of options. For Kurenai, basically, the highlight, it is not Twin Sword IR UV. No. It is Grindhouse special. Pretty busted. Critical damage increase when you can crit. Amazing, I tell you. The only disadvantage is the active. We honestly need another interface where we can just deactivate certain things, like the ultimates, perhaps. I mean, nobody is going to deactivate the ultimates, but definitely the weapon actives or some weapon actives. Then for Oboro, Oboro is an excellent example of something, and it's that sometimes you actually want to use the normal weapons because you have something like the critical damage increase weapon, or maybe an anti-trade weapon. Those are also very viable options. Do not disregard those. And then let's see, Oboro. As for Asuka, you would want to use Impact Blade. It increases damage so much, honestly. It's just disgusting. For Kirara, you can go with either Momochi weapon or Mariner in the Storm. Or you could go with Luffy's drop, but not particularly for this one. I mean, damage increase is better. Eleanor wants to use Treasure of the Deep Ocean, and Phantasma wants to use the Momochi weapon. For Ingrid has her Momochi weapon, sure, and the Candy Saber, while Ragnarok wants to use this weapon. I mean, it is a pretty good weapon. But if you don't have it, you just go with any other weapon that you have. Even the SR, which has critical damage increase, you know? As for Noah, Noah wants to use Mr. Wonderbird or Mini Frost. Even, even in some cases, Chaotic Beholder would be a nice option. Astaroth wants to use Undying Apophis. I mean, Astaroth. Or the VR weapon. If you selected this, I guess you could use this, but you shouldn't have. I mean, VR weapon, guys. VR weapon. Tokiko wants to use Mechanical Dart Knife, which is the SR weapon, because it is busted. It is extremely good. It is supportive. As I mentioned, supportive weapons for or effects for the whole team are better than selfish ones. Unless you're an extremely selfish DPS that deals a huge amount of damage. Spinel. The Eye of Dawn, of course, is the best option for Shizuru. But you could go with the renewal weapon, Goddess of Love. For I don't have a copy of her weapon. For Felicia, her best weapon is her character release weapon. It's the side with the wings. Pretty amazing. It deals a lot of damage. But you can go with the SR anti-demon weapon. It is pretty good. For Micah, now the weapon is going to be Deep Impact. You want Deep Impact if possible. But you could go with the Momochi weapon in case of an emergency. On a red build, preferably. In the case of both Rin and Nagi, they want to use the Momochi weapon because of their multi-hit. Sora wants to use the SR weapon, honestly, because it has anti-demon. Saika wants to use Ariel, but I mean, Ariel is the best option. She doesn't have like a good option other than Ariel. Shisui wants to use Guardian Gear type 26. Spinel wants to use the Kana Blade. Francis can use Revolting Bat or her crit weapon. Her crit weapon is also an excellent option. Over here, we have the crit weapon, pretty good. In the case of what's the name? Inagenatsu. Yeah. In the case of Natsu, she also wants to use the SR weapon. As I say, do not neglect these weapons. They are amazing, guys. For Magatamas, I mentioned this in previous videos, but I'll say it again. You want to be using, of course, Anti-Demon, Attack Magatamas. And for effects, the optimal thing to do, even if I don't do it because I'm kind of lazy, you want to use two fire Magatamas along with 2 water or 2 wind Magatamas, so that you increase your damage as much as possible. Yes, you could go with 4 fire Magatamas or 4 wind or 4 water, but that's the optimal thing to do. I'm just saying here, okay? And another important thing about relay mode in particular, you want to take advantage of the formations. Yeah, also on normal mode, but on relay mode, if you do the runs individually, you're going to be able to change the formations and use the filter functions. The filters, for example, if I put assist, I'm gonna check effects that benefit assist. Damage of assist type increase by 12%, damage dealt to assist type characters reduced by 12%, and so on and so on. So, which are the best or which do I recommend? Of course, we have over here the Cannon Warrior and the Fortune Teller. This one is probably the best for a selfish DPS like Spinel. But let's say that you do human teams. The best option for human teams, let me check which is the best option for human teams. Like we have reduced damage taken, increase damage dealt by 12%. Nah, not my favorite, honestly. I think that we could go better than this, but it is a thing. For machines, yeah, this one increases damage dealt by machine type enemies. No, 2 machine type enemies. No, this one no. Increase damage dealt by a machine type character by 15%. If you go pure machine, you can use this one. In the case of demons, Increase damage dealt. No. Increase damage dealt to demon. I mean, we can use this one for all our teams if you want. Increase damage dealt by demon type characters by 12%. Also this one. But there is one special. Yeah, this one. You can also use effects that are a combination. Like this one. Increases damage dealt by demon type characters by 16%. That it's better than the previous one. These two. But it also increases critical rate, which gives you consistency. So try to go with those kind of effects. So effects that increase attack, basically. Damage against super armor enemies? No, because we want to break super armor. Damage on timer 5? No. Damage increase against enemies inflicted with poison? No. Increase damage dealt to all enemies. Reduce damage taken. Could be used. The library girls is a pretty nice option that gives you damage increase against all enemies. Keep that in mind. So it is not bad. If you have troubles surviving, the name of Fuma gives you damage increase and damage reduction, a hefty damage reduction. Increase damage dealt by demon type characters with making a splash, as I mentioned, pretty useful. Let's see. Increase damage dealt, 12, 15. Increase damage dealt with skills to enemies with debuffs. Only skills, so no. Increase damage of the ultimate, increase damage dealt with range attacks. Yeah, I guess it is useful, but a little bit limited. Increase damage dealt of humans, increase damage dealt. Let me check. Machine, 15%. Increase damage dealt to machine. No. Because we're fighting a demon. Increase damage dealt to demon type characters by 12%. If you don't have any other options, you could use this one. But it comes with the demerit of more damage. So, yeah, that's something to take into consideration. Increase damage dealt by human type characters by 10% and reduces damage taken by 6%. Compound effects could be useful if you're in need of that. But as we saw, we have one that gives 12%, which is higher, and I prefer that. Increase damage dealt with melee attacks and increase damage dealt with range attacks. So, a 10% damage increase with Asagi watches over us. Yeah, that's also useful. So just look at the effects and decide what suits you best. Don't forget about your weapon or your armory to increase damage as much as possible too. And yeah, guys, basically that's it. Do your builds taking into consideration the Momochi weapon. If you have, of course, the meta relevant supporters, like Asusa, like Espinel, like Dancer Shizuru, like Mirabelle, like Haru, then of course put them. And one character, you can make it a selfish attacker. But take that into consideration that not always you're gonna be able to have all of these supporters, and you have to do some adjustment. But the thing that you want to do with your team is to make one strong attacker, the other ones solo attackers, but more like supporters slash buffers slash debuffers. You know, that would be the best thing to do. So take this advantage and try to make your own teams, and let me know how that helps you. If it helps you, it would be amazing. I would love to hear you in the comments. Yeah, I raised my score by a ton. That would be great. So that's gonna be it for today, and I'll be seeing you next time. Bye.